Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Colin with Mandrino Motorsports. So today we're going to fix the hyper flashing on the V-Rod that you saw in the previous video. For those that haven't seen it yet, I will make sure to tie that video to this one. That way you can kind of get the full story behind it. So I installed Hogworks LEDs all the way around on my bike in that video. And a major downside to doing that is incandescent bulbs draw a lot more amperage, or have a higher resistance, I should say, than compared to LEDs. I think whenever I did the math, it was 1 amp when they were running and less than half an amp when the Hogworks were running. All in all, like we talked about in the previous video, it's a super easy fix. We're going to add resistors. And in this video, I'm going to kind of go more into depth on that and how that works. That way, maybe if you're following along at home or if you have a project, whether that's any sort of vehicle or another V-Rod or another older Harley, you have this option as well rather than buying these variable resistor modules. So I went and pulled the back end of my bike apart, checked out the amperage of it. The amperage that was, like we talked about, the 1 amp and then half an amp, even into flashing, because you cannot get an accurate reading on incandescent lights if they are not working. You can't test the resistance for it unless they're powered up. So I went through, checked all that out. Over everything that I looked at and all the specs I checked, the deep dive into the research on it, there's a lot of factors in how big a wattage your resistor is, how many ohms that it is going, well, like the resistance of it, how many amps are being drawn, the amperage of the system. So after doing those numbers and those research, I want to keep heat down. So in order to keep heat down, you go with a larger wattage resistor. So I actually spec'd out, and they're a little overkill, but they're going to kind of help with the heat issues that I had talked about. They are 50 watt resistors off of Amazon. Super easy, cheap. I think they were like $6. So I got those. Now I have to build those to add them to wire them in series. So I will be adding them in addition, or in parallel. So I'll be adding them in addition to what's already there by adding them in parallel. So it's not going to be the only route. There's no cutting a wire and putting it in place and then adding after the fact. It's wiring it to where you are adding it into there without cutting the wire, if that makes sense. You'll see more of that when I go to actually install it on the bike. We're also going to look at mounting it in the bike. That way I can try and diffuse some of the heat that the resistor is going to produce back into the outer fender, the bottom side of it, that's all metal on my bike, so that I can push some of that heat out rather than trapping it between my outer and inner fender. So with that being said, I'll see you at the bench and we'll get everything torn down and figured out. So these are the resistors I talked about. These are 50 watts, all aluminum housing. I thought whenever I initially ordered it that they were going to come with the connectors on the end, but it's no big deal. I just went to my local auto parts store. I've got heat shrink to make sure that we don't have any shorts. I've got some 16 gauge wire, these crimp connectors, and they're called quick splices, but I've also seen them called like Scotch connectors, things like that. And then I also ran down to a local hardware store and got some bolts that we can use in conjunction with these to mount them on that metal surface. So with that being said, now that everything's here, let's go ahead and build this, get it set up, so once we get over to the bike, it's a quick, easy install. right, guys, so since the last time you saw it, hey, Pug. Since the last time you saw, I've done a couple things. Had to get the relays mounted, so I figured I'd give you a little peek of them. If my camera will adjust. Got the relays tapped and mounted. I didn't want to bore y'all. Sorry, we're having adjustment issues. We got the relays tapped and mounted on the inside, soldered up, so they're clean, out of the way. There's plenty of clearance. There's one on each side, and this will allow the bike to flash normally, which I'll show you. And also keeps them up and out of the way. As you can see, there's already wire kind of routed up through here for the turn signals. And then, as you just saw, I made them up inside of the inner fender. Mounting them here is really going to keep heat out of the inner fender, which was what I was afraid of. I've also got them mounted to the metal fender, so it'll actually work to diffuse the heat. They should get plenty of airflow in there, and it should wrap them a nice clean install. You can also see the heat shrink in there that is preventing any chafing, rubbing, or issues that may be had with it. So all in all, came out to be a good install. Man, having all sorts of focusing issues. And really definitely did clean up the outside